She got a hold on me. She got me right around her finger. She got a hold on me. She got me right around her finger. The city's gonna break my heart. The city's gonna love me to leave me alone. The city's got me chasing stars. It's been a couple months since she got a hold on me. She got me right around her finger. She got a hold on me.
Okay, Kim Long is here. Long time no see. I'll pay me. Okay, Kim Long is here. Long time no see. Let's sing.
Hello, Cheryl. Can you hear us okay? Oh, they're on muted. So we have 5
Kim Long is here. Long time no see.
Is the brother on?
Should ask the brother to be. Let's sing.
Hello, Cheryl. Hello, Kim Long. Yes, long time no see. You want to show your face? Oh, they're on muted. Okay, we put on some clothes. So we have 5
Kim Long is here. Long time no see.
Is the brother on?
Should ask the brother to
It
be.
is the home work from home. Hello, Cheryl. Kim Long. Yes, long time no see. You want to show your face? How's your business? Okay, we put on some clothes. So we have 5
Kim Long is here. Long time no see.
Is the brother on?
Should ask the brother to
It
be.
is the home work from home. A lot of Cheryl, Kim Long run if they purchase a laptop to work from home. Yes, long time no see. You want to show your face? How's your business? Okay, we put on some clothes. So we have 5
Kim Long is here. Long time no see.
Is the brother on?
Should ask the brother to
It
be.
is the home work from home. A lot of Cheryl, Kim Long run if they purchase a laptop to work from home. We actually advertise. Yes, long time no see. You want to show your face? How's your business? Okay, we put on some clothes. So we have 5
Kim Long is here. Long time no see.
Is the brother on?
Should ask the brother to
It
be.
is the home work from home. A lot of Cheryl, Kim Long run if they purchase a laptop to work from home. We actually advertise. Long time no see. You want to show your face? How's your business? Okay, we put on some clothes. So we have 5
Kim Long is here. Long time no see.
Is the brother on?
Should ask the brother to
It
be.
is the home work from home. A lot of Cheryl, Kim Long run if they Long time is it? Okay, laptop to work from home. We actually advertise. Yes, long time no see. You want to know again?
Yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? Selling the we have regulation is a lot more than German.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Work from home.
If they
Long time is it? We actually advertise. Long time no see. You want to know again?
yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? Selling the we have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Work from home.
If they
Long time is it? We actually advertise. Long time no see. You want to know again?
yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? Selling the we have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Work from home.
The chatbot.
Long time is it? We actually advertise. Long time no see. You want to know again?
Yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? We have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Work from home.
The chatbot.
Long time is it? We actually advertise. Long time no see. You want to know again?
Yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? We have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Hello everyone.
The chatbot.
Maybe 10 minutes. Long time is it? There might be late. Actually, long time no see. You want to know again?
Yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? We have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Hello everyone.
The chatbot.
Maybe 10 minutes. Long time is it? There might be late. Actually, long time no see. You want to know again?
Yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? We have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Hello everyone. I meant maybe 10 minutes. Long time is it? There might be late. Actually, long time no see. You want to know again?
Yeah, he's coming home.
How's your business? We have regulation is a lot more than mobile.
In front of you, you ask your brother.
Okay, I think yeah, people are coming in fast now. Cool. We have 14. Is that? Hi, Peter.
One more German guy, Fabian, joining. Hello, Fabian.
back to Hamburg to find my luggage and then yeah, get up. It's a good experience. But otherwise, I think Germany is very safe. Who else is online? Anyone want to say something? Hello? Oh, Cheryl, you want to say something? You have 5 t-shirts to give away. We will have 5 t-shirts for the 5 lucky attendee who asked the best questions. So you have to listen. Who else is online? Anyone want to say something? Hello? What time is it? Cheryl, you want to say something? Just past 8. Okay. Everyone relax, pour a drink. We will have 5 t-shirts for the 5 lucky
What is the name of your wine?
This is so in Singapore, because of course we are closer to Australia, we get a lot of Australian. This is a Wolf Blast. Can you see?
Ah, nice.
It's pretty good Shirak. So relax, pour a drink. Those people that been to Singapore, you will know that we pay crazy prices for alcohol.
What is the name of your wine?
So in Singapore, because of course we are closer. If you want to stay away from alcohol, you should come to Singapore. It's pretty good.
Or make a lot of money.
Or you make a lot of money, or you go bankrupt. Yeah, that's why for Singaporeans, when we go to Europe, oh, we go crazy. What? That's the price of wine? So anyway, just coincidentally, I met up with Max outside his house, and he didn't know. So we found a bar that sells IPA a pint for $2 Singapore. Oh no, they go by the hour. Yeah, that's why
So 2 p.m. it's $2, 3 p.m. it's $3, and it's right next to my house, and I haven't found it in 2.5 years. I haven't discovered this place.
Oh no more German.
There goes my passport.
Yes, we were thinking about it. So yes, that's probably one of the cheapest place we found a good beer IPA for. So last night I think we managed to reach there like 5.59. We got 2 IPAs for $5 each.
If you're up for drinking at 2 p.m., it's very cheap.
Yes.
So cheers to all
we will have a lunch meeting.
Germans who join during the lunch meeting.
Yes, we were thinking. Can you see Zach? Yes, that's probably one of the cheapest.
Just now I was adjusting the audio
a little bit, so that
it was a bit different from just now.
so that to reach there like 5.59. We got 2 IPAs for $5 each. No, you put on the.
No, I'm checking the YouTube. It's not the YouTube audio.
Oh, really? We will have a lunch meeting.
Germans who join during the lunch meeting.
Let me see how many people are there.
17.
17 now.
Minus 3.
What time now? So
8:06.
8:06. Okay, we'll start at 8:10. So bear with us.
So Cheryl, where are the t-shirts?
Yeah, do you have a
coming
sample
from?
of the t-shirt? Show us the t-shirt, man. Show us the box. Maybe it's the one that she's wearing. The polo t-shirt? Is that the one you're wearing?
So Cheryl, where are the t-shirts?
Yeah, do you have a
coming
sample
from?
of the t-shirt? Show us the t-shirt, man. Show us the box. It's muted, so okay, twins. Maybe it's the one that she's wearing. The polo t-shirt? Is that the one you're wearing? Hear water sound.
Someone forgot to mute.
You can see who is the one. Ming Su.
Seems like yes.
Maybe I can mute.
T-shirt.
Sorry, I just had to put you on mute because we're getting a lot of noise. Hear water sound.
Okay.
So we should be starting.
Yep, 79 is a good number.
Yeah, it's a pretty good number.
Oh, okay. Not able to hear us.
Sure.
Ah,
I just have to
okay. NGINX. Okay. Cool. Is it around there? I can't see. Polo.
Yep.
It's around there. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Nice. Oh. Okay.
Yep, it's around it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Ah. I don't think you need to do any special introduction.
No, I don't think so.
Is it around there? I can't see. Polo. It's around there. No worries. No worries, Mintu. Nice. Okay. You know, all of us techies we are a very shy bunch, so we don't do special introduction. So Cheryl is not can't speak. So do you want to do you have the Timo's bio? No worries, no worries. Timo, do you want to just give a quick introduction?
Sure.
Maybe just introduce yourself so we can get to know you better, and then you can jump straight to your topic. And again, a very big thank you to NGINX, Cheryl, Timo for agreeing to participate in our meetup and give us a talk on your NGINX unit. Okay, Timo, so
Sure.
over to you.
Yeah, so hello everyone, good evening to Singapore. It's quite lunchtime for me. It's your day is almost over, so it's interesting that it has been a while since I spoke the last time to you folks on this side of the globe, so pretty happy to do so. Yeah, from my background, I'm working as a product management engineer at NGINX, especially for the products NGINX Unit and NGINX Plus. Yeah, I'm with web technology and programming since I am 12 years old, so quite the or more than half of my life. I was working for SAP, a German company, for for standard company software. As the beginning of my career, it was a good time. Then I joined a car manufacturer in Germany, not in Wolfsburg, but this is their headquarter is in the south of Germany, but one of the other companies is in Wolfsburg. So I think that's now clear what company it was. Yeah, I worked as a system administrator, mostly for more than 4,500 Red Hat and Linux VMs in our data center. And yeah, then my last job at this company was as a full stack web engineer. Yeah, and since February, I've joined NGINX, and since mid-October, I'm the PME for NGINX Unit and NGINX Plus. So feel free to ask any question you have. Don't be shy. There are no wrong questions. There are no dumb questions. So just feel free to type into chat. And yeah, maybe one thing at the beginning, as it is late for you and as it a meetup, I want to make it as interactive as possible. So if you have any question, if you want to see something else we're doing here, just feel free to paste it in the chat, type it in the chat, or unmute yourself and ask questions directly in the Zoom call. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to have an interactive workshop, a great time with you for the next 30, 45 minutes. So that's all I want to do. Keep it as cool, as chilly, as interesting as possible, and have a great time. Have a beer or a drink, even if it's expensive, I learned. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. So let's have a great time for the next 40 minutes, I think. Yes, so that's basically it from my side. Any questions right now? I don't think so.
Yeah, and then again, to those that just joined in, we're giving away 5 t-shirts, NGINX t-shirts, very nice looking, professional looking t-shirts
to the 5 lucky people who ask good questions. Okay, so yeah, we got to be attentive. All right, Timo.
That's basically it from. Oh, so let's start. Any questions right now? I don't think so. I'll try.
Again, to those that just
is this big enough, or do I need to go in the presenter mode? Because it's easier for me now to have the chat and your faces on the right screen and having this on the left side. Is it big enough for you? Okay, so okay, so let's. I don't have animations in my PowerPoints at all, so that's why I think it's okay. Yeah, today's host is me, Timo Stark, product management engineer from NGINX. And what we want to do today is we want to build, or I want to demonstrate how we can use NGINX unit, what it is, where you can find more information, and how you can configure and use it in your day-to-day development or DevOps life. So we are focusing on the very right part of this diagram. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with a short introduction about NGINX and NGINX unit. Then we will build and run some APIs with NGINX unit and do some security hardening. Yeah, and last but not least, the very important part is the Q&A. I'll have a couple of questions prepared, but I'll let you know, and it would be cool if you can write down the answers in the chat so I can grab it from there. So that would be very, very helpful. Yeah, as I said, a little bit of an introduction to NGINX. I'm using NGINX since the early releases. In 2008, I've started using NGINX, so it's almost 20 years ago or 12 years ago. And yeah, NGINX unit started back in 2018 with the very first release, and I think I was one of the first NGINX customers who used NGINX unit in production. And yeah, from 2018 to the point where we are right now, 2020, there were more than 20 releases for NGINX unit, a ton of boatload of features added to NGINX unit. And I'm pretty happy to show you today the NGINX unit version 1.20 with a couple of new features and especially very cool security features. Yeah, so one thing that would be good is to know who of you joined the call is familiar with NGINX unit already. So maybe just with a short notice in the chat, who knows what NGINX unit is today and maybe has used it before. And the same thing about NGINX Plus. If you heard about NGINX Plus, it's like the commercial version of NGINX open source. Yeah, just as an idea, who of you have heard about NGINX unit and NGINX Plus? All right. So as I said, it's more a workshop than just a presentation, but a couple of theory at front. NGINX unit is our polyglot application server, a reverse proxy and static file server. So the important point here is that NGINX unit is not just an application server. It's more than an application server. And it will become more feature rich in the with the next releases, especially when it comes to the reverse proxying functionality or the web server functionality. And it's at the moment it's available for Unix or Linux like systems. There's no Windows release available right now. And yeah, what is NGINX unit? What is included in this polyglot multifunctional application server, web server, proxy server? So basically, let me start on the top right corner. It's multi-language support. So that means at the moment we support 8 different languages. And this is my next question for the chat. At the moment, we are supporting Ruby, Python, Perl, PHP, JavaScript, Java, Go. And so if it would be interesting so out of those 8 languages, what are the languages you're using in your day-to-day lives? Like, is it Ruby, is it Perl, Python, PHP, Node.js, Go, or Java? That would be interesting to know. So we're supporting all of those languages in one product. And yeah, NGINX unit is very flexible. So you can configure NGINX unit within RESTful API. So you can send JSON files or JSON payloads to an API endpoint to reconfigure your unit instance. And this is something we will do in a demo today. And with this very flexible configuration pattern, there is no downtime for your configuration changes. So that means you can reconfigure unit, you can change TLS certificates on the fly without having a downtime for the customer at all. Then the performance is one of the key figures of NGINX unit, as it was for NGINX open source in the early days. We have this asynchronous request processing pattern as it is in NGINX OSS implemented today. And yeah, performance and security are two things that are always very, very important for the development team and the engineering team for unit and NGINX OSS. From security perspective, we'll see those features today. So we can isolate the namespaces and the processes for our applications running on top of unit. So that means you can separate the processes, the run users per application. This is something we want to do today. Another thing I want to show you is the rootfs feature, what it is and how it can help to prevent some security vulnerabilities. And the TLS encryption is very easy to enable. So that means we can enable the TLS encryption on the unit stack directly and can encrypt the traffic from your proxy server to unit to your application very easy with TLS. So that means there's no unencrypted traffic, if you want, from outside the internet to your application gateway to your proxy server. Then you do the TLS termination, and if needed, you can do another TLS termination from your application server to your proxy server to have a fully encrypted connection. But we will have a look at the security features today, as well as the API configuration and the supported languages. So, but NGINX unit is, because a lot of people are asking, what is unit exactly? What is it? Is it suitable for containers? Can you deploy it in Kubernetes? Can you install it on a VM? And yeah, the answer to this question is pretty simple. It is lightweight enough for a container, but it's also powerful enough for hosting your applications on a whole VM without anything else. I have used unit in both ways within the last 2 years. I have it in containers and I have it on a VM or more than one VM hosting a couple of PHP applications. And I recreated this slide deck, and I'm absolutely behind those two sentences. It's definitely lightweight enough for a container, and it is powerful enough for a whole VM. Today we want to use NGINX unit on a VM, but I have a couple of slides later where I can show you how to use NGINX unit in a container. So before we start with the demo, I want to show you the basic architecture of NGINX unit. This is pretty interesting and can help to understand the concept of unit a little bit better. So we have here on the top left side the controller process, then the main process here, and the router processes or the threads for your different applications. So the controller process is the process taking care of the reconfiguration or accepting your configuration calls, your API calls, and sends the configuration to the main process, and the main process is taking care of the reconfiguration of your instance. Then we have a router process. The router process is a very interesting part because with the NGINX router object, you can create matchers and can decide based on URI segments, on hosts, on request parameters or options, like is it a post request, is it a GET request, what you want to do with the request. So on to which application you want to route this request. And this is something I want to show you in a demo today. So we will talk about routers and the configuration of the router process in a bit. And yeah, down on the last level here are the application processes, and you can configure different number of processes, 4, 5, 10, 15 per application object, and they can scale dynamically as needed in given ranges. And another cool feature is you can assign a run user to each of those application processes. So you can have your PHP application is running under a run user PHP, then you have the Python application running under your Python user, and a Go application running under your Go run user. So this is one part of the security features, that you can separate the different applications with its own run users to separate them from each other. All right, so this is just in a little bit more detail, but we'll go ahead and talk about this in a bit. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. As I said, the router process, or the router is like the main part in our NGINX unit, taking care of your requests, deciding what target to choose. So based on URI segments or host name or HTTP verb, is it get, post, put, delete, whatever, and where to send the traffic to. So it's like the main router for all the incoming traffic. So, but you can bypass the router process if needed. So if you do not want to configure any router for whatever reason, you can simply point your listener object directly to your application without having the router doing any fancy stuff. But again, this is something we will see in the demo in a bit. Yeah, so the process overview, why it's always interesting to see, because the only process running under a privileged user is the main process. The controller, router, and the app processes are non-privileged or unprivileged users. It's like with NGINX. So the NGINX master process is root, and all the other processes are unprivileged users. If you go back to the overview, we remember the main process is this guy over here, and this one is taking care of reconfiguring your instance. Controller and router are here unprivileged processes. All right, so how to install, or where to get the binaries from? We have officially supported pre-compiled binaries for your operating system. So CentOS or Red Hat is jam install, unit go, whatever. Ubuntu Debian based apt-get install, Docker, or for Mac, you can use a Docker container, for example, to run NGINX unit on Mac as well. And so those guys here, the Docker images are hosted on Docker Hub. So feel free, or let me make a note. I'll go ahead and share the links after the presentation in the chat. So feel free to grab it from the chat. I'll copy the link to the Docker Hub repository, so you can get the Docker images from. But on the website, I think, there is the NGINX unit website is unit.nginx.org, where you can find all the information about where to get the binaries, how to build it from source, where to get the Docker images. Let me just open that for a second. Unit.nginx.org. So yeah, as I said, installation, official packages. You can see Amazon Linux supported, CentOS, Debian, Fedora, Red Hat, Ubuntu, Homebrew for Mac. So I'll need to update my slides. Go, Node.js, and where is the Docker thing? Is here. Oops. Docker images. So all the information you need are here on unit.nginx.org in the installation section. So let me copy that to the chat. And another thing, just because we are on the website, there are two sections. They are pretty interesting and very, very helpful when you start with NGINX Unit. In the how-to section, there are a framework section as well as an application section. And here, for example, we'll go ahead and use Cake PHP. This is a complete how-to run NGINX Unit with Cake PHP or Cake PHP with NGINX Unit. How's the configuration? What are maybe some special things you need to do? So this is pretty helpful when it comes to get started with NGINX Unit. Go ahead in the how-to section and see the frameworks or application section. Paste it in the chat, and feel free. For example, WordPress is another configuration example. How to use NGINX Unit for WordPress? What's the configuration, and what are special things you need to consider? So yeah, frameworks and applications, definitely absolutely worth to have a look on it, as it contains a lot of different information. And example configuration, you can just copy paste and use it as it is here. All right. And before we go inside of the configuration itself, are there any questions right now about where to get NGINX Unit from? Or is there anybody who is now not does not understand what NGINX Unit is, or for what we can use it? I don't think so. Great. Are there any questions right now about where to get NGINX Unit from? Okay, perfect. So let's jump into the configuration before we start with our demo. Okay, so the unit configuration, as already mentioned, is based on a JSON payload you can send with an API command to your NGINX Unit instance. And yeah, at the very top level, so this is the basic command over here. At the very top level, it contains two objects. One is for certificates for the TLS encryption, and the other one is a config object. If you just install NGINX Unit and start it, it will be empty. So there's no certificate and there's no config, but it will have those two empty objects. There's a certificate one and a config one. And inside of the configuration here, we have a couple of other objects we can use. So settings is basically for our instance. We can specify a couple of settings for our instance. We'll see this in the demo. Then we have listeners, routes, applications. So those three here are the most important one, I would say. A listener creates or opens a port where your users can connect to. It can be 80, 443, it can 80, 80, 80, 90, whatever you want to do. So this is the first thing is a listener, create a listener, and the listener, as we already saw, can point to a route or to an application object. A route is the thing we have talked about, the really fancy part of Unit where you can create rules and measures and decide where the incoming request should be routed to what application. So this is the route object, and the application object contains all your application information. So is it a PHP application? Is it a Ruby? Is it Python? Is it a Go application? What's your web root? What's your run user? How many processes? All that stuff is part of the application object. So in general, as it is a polyglot application server, all those settings are identical for all the programming languages. So it doesn't matter if it's a Go application, a Ruby, a Python, or PHP. But we have, of course, different configuration options per programming language in the application section. But I mean, for PHP, you can configure those user and admin options, for example, for the PHP SPM, but not for a Ruby application. So that's why, in general, it's identically, but for special programming languages, we have different configuration options inside of the application object. So this is a router example in action for a Django application, and so this is the name of the route is Django. So you see here localhost config routes. Django is the name of the route, and then you can do a match and say, all right, what do I want to do? I want to match a segment of the URI static. And if a request matches, so that means if there's something with static star inside of our URI, or the URI starts with /static, we want to share the content of, or we want to try to find the file inside of this directory. So this is like serving static files like assets, pictures, CSS, JavaScript files. And after, if this is not a match, there is another thing where you say, all right, if this is not working for all the rest, we want to pass the request to our application object Django project. So this is one example of a route configuration, and another one is for WordPress.
Hey, Timo, just to, sorry to interject, just to try and align the concepts for someone who is learning unit, would routes be similar to the location blocks in NGINX Plus, if you're familiar to that configuration?
Would a route, let me think of the, not really, because you can match more than just a location like a URI. A location is based on the URI in NGINX, and you can, in the router object, you can use the host name, for example, as well. So it's like that's why I'm thinking I wouldn't say it's completely different than a location, but if it helps, it is for the URI part something like an NGINX location, but it is more on the unit side, as you can use a host name, for example, or HTTP verbs like get, put, post, update, whatever, or delete here as well. So it is definitely more. And my problem with these routes are, at the moment, they are so powerful. I could spend 2 hours minimum to tell you how you can configure a route. So that's why I think about doing a webinar just about route and request handling with NGINX unit, as you can do a lot of different things here. So you can say, for example, the URI, maybe the most common one. I want to check if my URI contains something, and if so, I want to send the request to this specific application. But you can use the host name as well. You can check headers, you can check cookies, you can check the scheme, is it HTTP or HTTPS. So it's a lot more than just a location block in NGINX OSS. It's super powerful, but yeah, that's why I'm. So does this answer your question? Okay.
It does, yes.
Oh, perfect. So that's why I'm always trying to have a couple of examples here to make it yeah, a little bit more understandable for what I can use the routes. Another example here is for WordPress. It's the same thing. We have locals config routes. The name of the route is WordPress, and then we see we have the match here, which is a multi-part URI pattern. So it's not just one part of the URI that can match here. So we have star.php, we have star.php / something, or WP admin. In case the request matches, or the URI of an incoming request matches this pattern, we want to pass or send the request to our application WordPress direct, or, and this is pretty cool, another, if the request does not match this pattern, we have the share, which is like the try files for NGINX. We try to, if it's a CSS file, a JavaScript file, a PNG, whatever, we try to find the file inside of this directory and send it to the client. And if we cannot see the file, or we can find the file in this given directory, the fallback is the WordPress index application. So this is, I think this is a pretty good illustration how powerful the route matchers or the route object is in NGINX unit, and what we can do with it. But again, I can totally understand if this is not 100% clear now, as the routes are pretty powerful. And yeah, I think about creating a webinar just for the routes, and I think I'll share it with Cheryl, and then it will be shared to the community on your side as well. So this is something I'm looking forward to. All right, so our example is now based on PHP, and I mean, anybody who used PHP in the past is aware of those kind of configuration. So given we have a PHP FPM installed on a VM, and we want to configure NGINX to send PHP requests, or requests for a PHP file to our FPM, we have to configure NGINX like this, and we have to configure our PHP FPM like this, and then we have to start the PHP FPM, we have to start NGINX, but then we have multiple applications, we have 4, 5, 6 different applications, but we do not want to multiply our FPM process, so we have one PHP FPM used in all our 5 applications. And I mean, I did that for 5 years, 6 years at least, without any problem. Yeah, this was the first concept I've changed after I've discovered NGINX unit, or I've started working with NGINX unit, to share my FPM socket or my started FPM workers with all my other applications. So this is one pattern I've just completely changed right after I started working with unit, and I've explained this in a minute why. Right, so just as an idea, this is how you can configure NGINX unit per default. So install out of the box without changing anything. Unit will listen on a specific socket, so it's not exposing a TCP port or something you can use for the configuration because of security reasons. But you can configure NGINX unit on startup to tell the unit binary not to create the socket, but to open a TCP port you can use. But just be aware, let's say you expose port, or you want to listen on port 9000 for the configuration of NGINX unit. NGINX unit itself does not have any security included in its product to password protect your configuration endpoint, for example. So if you want to expose your port 9000 to curl localhost 9000 instead of having access to the socket, make sure you somehow protect your connection to NGINX unit, to the controller process with some HTTP basic auth. A good point here is using NGINX open source as a proxy server and enable the HTTP basic auth in front of your configuration port, just to make sure it's at least protected from the outside world, or use the Unix socket if you can. Then there is the configuration JSON file, the config JSON file you can send with metadata binary. And then we have the localhost config here, which is the config endpoint. And this is the starting point, but you can configure, for example, an environment variable called API secret for your application app in the same way. You can say localhost config applications app environment API secret, and then just specify the API secret as to update the API secret. So there are two examples you can use for configuration. You do not have to specify a full JSON file if you just want to change an API secret, for example. Then I would recommend you do something like this: config applications app environment API secret, update the secret, enter, and that's it. That's another way of using NGINX unit for configuration. All right. Any questions right now? Otherwise, if not, I'll go ahead and there are a couple of questions in chat from Jay. So if the question is really urgent, I'll go ahead and answer it right now.
Yeah, I think he already asked. So why don't we, I don't see any other questions. So maybe just go ahead.
Just go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Okay. So if there are no questions, we can go ahead and dig into our demo. All right. So this is CentOS 7 VM, and there's a little bit of a story here. So we're working in an insurance company or in a bank, and the Christmas time is coming, and as we have a VM out there in the internet hosting our API for our available and trusted customers for their bank account data and stuff, and as we have the web server already up and running, somebody decided to host our Christmas greeting application on the same application server than our bank API. Open our bank API. So this is our bank API, and bigger. Right, and okay, so on the same server we have our Christmas application right now. Great idea, good thing. And yeah, we have our customers, and we want to send links to our customers, and they can open it in the email or whatever and see, cool, my bank whatever said Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all my family. That's great. By the way, this is it sounds like a constructed example, but I will promise you, I have had this situation with a customer. They did the exact same thing. So this looks like very constructed, but I had a similar problem with another client a couple of years ago, and it was a Christmas card greeting application they built by themselves, and that went terribly wrong. And yes, so this is not the original source code, but it's the same vulnerability. Okay, so we have the Christmas greeting, that's totally fine, and we have our API on the same server, and it's already running with NGINX unit. So is it big enough?
Yeah, it's good.
Perfect. So let me do this. So let's see what's in our unit instance right now. So we say curl. Then we have our Unix socket, and default is var run unit control.sock. Yeah, and then it's localhost/config for the configuration. So let's see what we have here. As I said, we have our listener port 80 and port 8080, and the path is route app1, or we can use this as well. So we can say applications app1 direct here in our listener and on the same place. So we do not have to use a router. You can simply just send the traffic directly to the application without any route configuration at all. In our case, we have route for app1 and route for app2. So here we have app1, and so everything that matches PHP, we go into applications app1 direct. And if it's not matching PHP, we try to share our web root directory. And in case we cannot find the given file, we want to send the request to our index file. Same for our API. So now let's see what is the application configuration. So type is PHP, and we have specified a run user and a group. Targets is the point we saw in our router. We have one target is direct and the other one is index. So direct means it's a file ending with PHP or something like that. So we want to execute the PHP file directly. So that's why it's called direct. We are looking into the root directory of our application, see if we can find the file and execute the PHP file directly. The index target means we are sending the request to the index PHP file. This is a behavior for WordPress, for example. So that means if your application is able to do the routing, so like Cake PHP with your controllers and stuff, then it's always helpful or needed that your index app file or your index PHP file of your application or framework is taking care of requests. They are not directly a PHP file itself or a JPEG, PNG, CSS, or whatever. So that's why you have the option to specify different targets. Here we have environment variables, API key and secret, and those environments can be like updated with a single API command. Then we have our limits for the PHP FPM processes. And this is the really cool feature I saw with Unit when I started working with PHP, because normally you configure your www.conf file once for your PHP FPM, you specify the number of processes, the limits, the timeouts, and then you use this setting for 10 different applications. And with Unit, you can configure this per application. And it's just for your application. It's just for this app you're configuring in here. As well as the PHP options. So you can say, all right, we have expose PHP 0, memory limit, variable order, display errors, error reporting in general, max upload file size. This is really a fine-grained configuration for your application's need. It's not one size fits all approach. It's really the configuration for one application. All right, same thing for your app 2. And as mentioned before, we have the settings, instant white, where we say it's a read timeout, mime types, body size, couple of configuration options. All right, so let's see. There's a question in the chat. All right, same thing for. So why we are not using a straightforward file-based configuration instead of using an endpoint? So the question or the answer to that question is that we wanted to have an application server or a product that is configurable with an API. I mean, you can use the JSON files, for example, to configure your NGINX unit instance, and especially when it comes to a Docker container, you can configure your unit instance with this configuration file. Then you save this configuration file in a special directory inside of a Docker container, and then unit will be reconfigured automatically when the container starts. So it is kind of an approach where you can specify a JSON file with all the configuration and send it to unit if you want to. But beside from that, you're able to do very, very fine-grained API calls and say, I just want to change one environment variable's value in here and change the secret to secret one just with an API call, without having the need of restarting any processes, without connecting to the instance directly or whatever. So that's the reason why it's an API. You're able to do very, very fine-grained API calls and say, I just all right. So this is the initial configuration. All right, so back to our Christmas greeting application. So let's have a look here in the source code. So somebody created some JavaScript, and we see that there is something like this where we can, looks like something is generating our greeting files and and storing them on disk, and we can use that to say hi Peter, whatever. So that's good. And we found through some other research that on the same system, on the same IP address, we have our secret API hosted. And now with some other research, I mean, this is nothing simple, but with some other research, we found out what's the web root of our greeting application and what is the web root of our API application. And now we want to try to see if we can, for example, grab some common files like config.php. Oh, that's too bad, because with our greeting application, we have access to the file system of our application too. And here, there is a config.php file. And in here, we have our database user, the password, and our database host. Yeah, which is a little bit bad right now. So that means we can use our Christmas card greeting application to bypass some security stuff for our API and grab files from our API application, which is definitely, but it's a bad case. So that's why it is Saturday evening, or what is today? Wednesday, Thursday evening in Singapore. The engineering team is at home, but we need to protect our API as soon as possible to close this vulnerability. And to do this, as mentioned, I want to show you some security features right now from NGINX unit. And we have talked about the rootfs feature, and this is something I want to show you right now. So the router is the, as mentioned, I want to show you so the listeners are the same. We introduced here some certificates, but that's fine. The router is exactly the same, but remember we had something like application or something like var. Or was it? What was the share? It was home app user var app1 here. Now it's just a slash. App2 is our API. We haven't changed anything on App2, but here we see the root is just a slash. And the isolation feature here says, all right, we want to isolate our file system and want to mount our file system for the unit process under the root location here. And it's from our server, home app user var www1 app or app1. We want to isolate this one here. And all the rest is absolutely identical. We haven't changed anything in App2 or in the settings. Only thing we changed here is the isolation, and it's from this one here, and the path is here to slash. All right, so let's see. All the rest is absolutely identical. We curl. So it's put using the socket. Then we have data binary. So now we want to enable the rootfs. Reconfiguration is done. So let's see what our API is doing. This should now listen on HTTPS. Right, cool. It is HTTPS. It's self-signed, but as you see, that's all we have to do to enable the TLS encryption. And this reconfiguration is done. isn't working anymore. So we cannot get the files from f2 config php, as our file system is now isolated to its application context. So we cannot go outside of our application context to find any other files that are not part of our origin application. So this is something I really want to show you, because this isolation rootfs feature is pretty interesting. It's not that old. It's just 2 releases old, or 3 releases old, and it's pretty helpful when it comes to how to isolate and encapsulate your applications on one VM with NGINX in it. All right. 2 last words about unit and Docker. As I said, you can specify a JSON configuration file and place it inside of the Docker entry point D directory. And NGINX unit has a startup script, and the startup script will check the Docker entry point D directory for JSON files and apply it as initial configuration. Or it will look for PEM files and upload it directly to its certificate store. Or it will look for shell scripts, and if there is a shell script, it will run the shell script after it applied the configuration, uploaded the certificate, and then it will run the shell script. So this is it's like in hierarchical order. Do the configuration first, upload the TLS, or upload TLS, do the configuration, and run the shell script. So this is the Docker approach with Docker entry point D. It's pretty helpful for the initial configuration of your application stack and the container. This is a basic Docker file. You can use the base image from NGINX unit, create something like var app home, a run user, and change the permissions to access the app home. There you can specify something like the access log. You can configure NGINX unit to write an access log like NGINX OSS, and then you say, right, this access log specified in the unit configuration is linked to standard out or standard error, so you can see it in the Docker output. Then you can copy your config into Docker entry point D. You copy your PEM file, your certificate, key, and cert into entry point D. And here, this is like the how to start NGINX unit. And here, this is the part where you can tell unit, like, go ahead and use the control socket, or if you do want to do this, go ahead and do this control and set an TCP port IPv406 to listen on a certain port. All right. How to start NGINX unit. Right. I've pasted a couple of things in the chat. Configuration examples for unit. There is a GitHub repository, unit examples, where you can find some other examples. And if you want to check out or try out NGINX Plus, there is a developer license available with the code ATO 2020 workshop. You can download a free copy of NGINX Plus for your personal needs and play a little bit around with NGINX Plus. I'll keep that here. Cool. So that's basically from my side. So now I'm pretty happy to answer your questions. Download a free copy of NGINX Plus for your personal needs and play a little bit around with NGINX Plus.
Timo, you might want to look at the chat window. I think. So that's he's answered it already. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So Max, do you have a question?
In fact, I do have one. So thanks so much, Timo. If I want to play with that tomorrow, what are the performance differences to straight up using NGINX for my, let's say, PHP or Python-based application?
Timo, you might want to look at the chat.
Sorry, can you? That was a little bit.
Okay, sure. But my question is there any difference in performance to straight up using NGINX? So like faster, slower, same ballpark?
Yeah, okay. This depends on what programming language you want to use with NGINX Unit. For the PHP part itself, there is no performance degradation in using NGINX Unit or NGINX open source or plus with the PHP FPM. As NGINX Unit is implementing the PHP server API and it's replacing the FPM product at all. So at the moment there are no performance tests right now available, but we are working on it and want to release some performance metrics within the next weeks, at maximum by the end of this year, to have some performance metrics about NGINX Unit with PHP 7 or 8 and corresponding FPM products, or the PHP FPM product. But I haven't seen any performance problems, to be honest, with NGINX Unit, and at the moment I'm hosting more than 35 PHP applications on one unit instance without any performance issues.
Okay, very cool.
Anyone else would like to ask Timo any questions?
But I haven't seen any performance problems, to be honest, with NGINX Unit, and at the moment I'm hosting more than 35 PHP applications on one unit instance without any.
Maybe Timo, can you share some real world use case or case studies that you are aware of that they are deploying a unit?
Sure. Yeah, as I said, the one use case I've used Unit for is for my PHP stack to isolate and encapsulate my PHP applications. I had my first approach back in the days was to host everything in a container and deploy it isolated in a single container. So I have one application per container. But that started to become very, very difficult because you have NGINX open source in the container, you have a PHP FPM in the container, you have all the application code in the container, and just for isolating your workloads, I mean, that for me it was a little bit too much of an operational overhead to do this. And then I used NGINX Unit, and with NGINX Unit I have one VM like it was before. I have one installation like it was with FPM before, but I can separate my run processes. I can monitor. I can reconfigure my applications. I can have one run user per application without having all the Docker stuff needed to isolate my application workloads from each other. I can use the file system isolation with rootfs and things like that. I can encrypt with TLS very easy. So especially for PHP, my real world example was that I simplified my hosting stack with NGINX Unit and made it more secure, because I can now isolate my application workloads per application without having the operational overhead of like creating containers. Because it was definitely not needed to host containers on a single VM just because of an isolation. That was pretty easy with NGINX Unit.
Okay, even more lightweight than container.
Isolate my application workloads per application without having the operational overhead of like creating containers.
Come on, we still have t-shirts up for grab. Anyone out there would like to ask Timo any questions?
Just because of an isolation. That was pretty easy with NGINX Unit.
Even more lightweight than container.
See, I told you, Timo, not enough drinks. That's the
No worries.
Drinks are too expensive in Singapore.
No worries. I will be around on Slack and or on Twitter, Stack Overflow. So just feel free to ask any questions there. There's an NGINX Unit mailing list. So we will be around for questions. Just
that's a drinks. Oh, that's nice.
no worries.
Drinks are too expensive in Singapore.
I will be around.
So they got share the Slack channel. Do you share the Slack channel itself?
In the chat, is it?
Yeah.
But maybe after this we can
Yeah, we can consolidate.
we'll
at the-
consolidate everything
okay.
and then we'll share in the meetup group. Okay. So if not, then
Right.
okay. Sorry, you to make you do all the talking. There's a lot of hard work. So if there's no question, I'd like to thank Timo and NGINX for participating in our meetup and sharing with us this unit project. Okay, thanks, Timo.
You're
So
welcome. Have a great evening.
yeah, hopefully we will see you in Singapore soon, and we can have a physical meetup, and you talking,
Sure.
and then we can, when we have our past meetup, we always enjoy drinks after that.
Yeah.
So we actually have a bigger turnout.
Have a nice lunch.
All right. So
Okay,
talk to you
so
then.
thanks
Bye.
for the
Thank
hard
you.
work.
Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, I think just to continue, our tonight is like a German night, German team.
It's German
We
night.
have another German talking, Max.
Hey everyone, I'm gonna try to keep it very, very short and do like a very different approach from a more thorough talk we just heard. Um, so my topic is building chatbots, right? So I recently joined an open source project where we take some of the existing open source libraries, combine them in new ways, adding new exciting features. And I really wanted to just give everyone a very quick overview. What if you are, let's say, bored over the Christmas time that's coming, right? Or in lockdown in Germany, and you want to build your own chatbot, and you don't really know where to start. I just want to give you like a few pointers and show you a way to get your own chatbot up and running in under 10 minutes. So first of all, like there's a couple of open source projects that already exist that I think people should be aware of because they're really, really awesome. They do a lot of things out of the box for you. And yeah, so the first one, too bad we don't have Mario here, another German guy who's the organizer of FOSSG, who is, I think the Suzy AI project is under the umbrella of FOSSG, and it's replacing like all the famous at home like assistants like Siri or Alexa, right? So it's a Java application. You can set it up. You can enable your own skills, and then you can have like voice interaction. You can tell your own Susi instead of Siri, right, to create to-do lists and everything else. Awesome project, but I was more going to the direction of like an actual chatbot that is a bit more conversation driven, right? If you have an Alexa at home or you talk to Siri, you quickly realize that the exact commands you have to speak are pretty precise, right? It's very short. It's not how you would talk to your friend. It's more how you would talk to like an Alexa, right? Um, so that's why they're, yeah, this one is like, has a different focus. Nonetheless, awesome product. I recommend to check it out. The next one that we have is for all things natural language programming involved. I think Spacey is the go-to resource. It's just a huge library that gives you all the tools if you want to build your own program that does anything with natural language, right? Understanding text or dissecting information, right? Extracting information from different sources. Amazing thing. And we will investigate like one open source project that does the chatbot using Spacey is like one of the options there. So this is the tool I'm talking about. It's called Rasa. It's an open source project that helps you building different types of chatbots that you can find on the normal websites nowadays, right? It's usually like a small shop or something like that, right? Where you log in and there's like a small chat window popping up in the bottom right of your screen and then asking you, hey, can I help you, right? Are you looking for anything? Sometimes it's replacing a search, and sometimes it can guide you through different processes, right? And you don't have to program that much, let's say Python in this case for it, because it's mainly configured through text, plain text, which I think is pretty awesome if you're just getting started. To plug my thing, my project that I'm contributing to, it's a bot kit where we take Rasa, and then we build like a nice UI on top and help you get started gathering data from different sources, right? If you want to build a chatbot, usually you have an existing website with like an FAQ that you want to put into the chatbot, and this will remove some of the friction. Yeah, and then to mention one more, we have Respi. Nice to check out. Just going to gloss over it. If you want to build anything voice enabled, this is open source. Works out of the box, voice detection and speech generation. Quite cool. And there's duckling, not to mention by Facebook, which is also integrated into Rasa. So if you have any strings that mentions dates or numbers, anything like that, it will extract it for you in a machine readable format. Yeah, pretty amazing. So yeah, let's quickly go through Rasa. So the main idea is, right, that the user types anything into the chat, and then there's like a natural language understanding component, which will take the text, for example, in this case, how's the weather in Berlin, and will detect that the user is asking about the weather. It will pass this information onto a core component, which has different settings, how the bot should react to this. This could call out to an API, right, fetching the actual weather in Berlin, or it could just look up which text to reply with. In this case, for example, cold. Right? Yeah, so the NLU part is the most interesting one, right, because this is like a machine learning component, and which is usually pretty scary to get started with. The documentation is usually bad, right? It's done by researchers. Luckily, thanks to Spacey and TensorFlow and Rasa, everything is configured out of the box. So you would just give the chatbot some examples that you want the bot to understand. I'm going to show a config file in a second, and it's going to train the AI for you using proven defaults, right? You can still go in and actually update the which algorithm to use and whatnot. But for just to get started like this, it's not necessary to even know what a neural network is or any of this stuff, right? It's just configured, does everything for you. And the core part is the actual interesting one for you, I guess, if you want to get started, because messages are contextual by nature, right? So you have to react to what has been previously said during the chat. You can do some chit chats where like you ask the bot for a name. You can put in your FAQs, right, from the website, so the bot acts more like a search engine. Or you can have like business logic, which is, I think, the most interesting for most businesses, where they have an issue because people don't find the exact information on the website that they need. So they ask the customer support, right? And you want to automate some of it. So yeah, if you get started, this is really all you need to do. It's a Python package that you install, and you just type in Rasa init, and it will run you through a wizard, which will leave you with a working configuration with like a very small bot that can answer about his name, that can answer about how it's feeling right now. And like it can have a very, very limited conversation with you out of the box, but it contains all the files for you to get started. This is all the files that you need. I'm going to just gloss over this, but basically you see the config is you don't have to touch it. Reactions.py is you want to make call out to any APIs. This is where you go. But for you, the interesting part would be the NLU, which is the natural language understanding part, and the domain. This is how to respond and how to guide the conversation, right? And this is how an actual natural language understanding file looks like. You see here the bot. You teach the bot how to detect that the user is asking the bot for the name, right? So you give a couple of examples. What is your name? May I know your name, right? Or do you have a name for yourself? And how people might ask for the weather, right? Does it look sunny outside today? So the bot will learn to take any text that kind of looks like this and report back the intent, right? Like ask weather or ask name. And now you go to the domain YAML, and you can just put in the responses, right? So the response would be like, for if you get the intent ask name, then the bot should utter with ask name, hi, I'm called retrieval bot, right? Or for the weather, I'm not sure, right? So these are hard-coded responses, and Rasa will pick a random one if you give multiple options. If you want to have like this, like reacting from an API response, for example, you have to write some Python code, but this will get you started. You can have like a pretty big domain YAML to answer all the FAQs you have on your website. Forms are just going to show that is very, very easy to add like small snippets and guide the whole conversation, right? Let's imagine you're a restaurant owner and people ask you for a reservation and they cannot really find the form on your website. The form would be easier, but we're going to just use duckling, right? So you install duckling on your server, which is the small Haskell library that can extract like the numbers. And so for your chatbot, you can say, hey, I have a form, it's called the restaurant form, so where people can ask about the cuisine they want to eat from, the number of people that are going to come to the restaurant, and if they want to have outdoor seating, yes or no, right? And then you can teach the bot how to ask the user and guide the user through the process, making sure that the user has to answer with, here you see the user has to answer with a number for how many people should join, and duckling will extract it for you, right? And if you want to teach the Rasa bot how to detect which cuisine it is, you just need to give it some examples and mark the word which would be the cuisine, and it will use Spacey and TensorFlow under the hood, right, and train an AI from scratch, or not from scratch, but like using the libraries to detect the cuisine automatically. Yeah, this is as far as my examples go, and this would really be a 10-minute adventure if you want to get started. And I leave you with two fantastic links. There is a YouTube talk that's about like 1.5 hours long, which teaches you all the ins and outs of how Rasa work, how you would use it in production. And there's the official Rasa tutorials. I'm going to share the links later on the Meetup page, but basically it's the blog page of the Rasa team. They have a commercially backed product as well, which you can use, Rasa X, which has a nice UI for you to configure, but the open source part is more than enough to get started. This is where you can get like some real life examples and lots of pointers if you have specific questions. Yeah, that's it. Do you guys have any questions? Basically, it's the blog page chat of the Rasa team. They have a commercially.
Is there an online example that you can
an online example
or demo?
but the open
And
source part
show a
is
chatbot
more than
that's
enough to
built
get
out of
started.
Rasa.
This is where you can get like some real
Do you
life
have one?
examples. I don't think I have one right here.
In this online?
That's it.
Could you
There's
log?
probably one, but it's just if you log into Rasa to the tutorial page, the bot that you just saw, you can show it.
Do you want to try it now?
Online example.
Mike, it's probably easier to show.
It would be, I guess, but it's not that exciting. You have like a terminal page. It's just a normal terminal, right? So you have your Python app, command line app running, and you type in, "Hi bot, where are you?" and "How are you?" and the bot says, "I'm good." Something like this. If you log into Rasa to the tutorial page, the bot that you just saw. Right. No questions.
You want to try it? Yeah. Makes this cover to get out.
It would be, I guess. But it's
Okay,
not
so
that exciting.
actually, I think this concludes our official program. But I think maybe we can just do 10 minutes of everyone just free chat. If you guys just wanna maybe get to know each other better in the community. So I don't know who qualifies for the t-shirt, but or otherwise we'll just do a random draw for the people that attended. And then we'll figure out a way to give you a t-shirt.
Cheryl is still around, right? So other Cheryl or Maddie.
Maddie is around,
Yeah.
so we can
Yeah,
do
yes, I am. I'm here, guys.
I ask question.
Yeah. Go ahead. Just let me know who is eligible for the shirt.
Otherwise we'll just do a
And
random,
I'll ship them over from my house.
draw
I'm assuming everyone's in Singapore. That's my assumption at least, right? Yeah. So I just need the LinkedIn handle so I can send them an email and get their shipping information.
Yeah, Mingzu is one of them, right? So I think
Is eligible for the shirt.
that
one I got already. Yeah, I'm gonna
that's from
shoot him a message tomorrow.
Fomo Pay, right?
I'm assuming everyone's
Is he from Fomo Pay? Just to confirm.
Yeah. So I just need the LinkedIn handle so I can. Yeah. You can ignore Kelvin Chan because he's my colleague and also Maddie. She's my colleague too. They want to they attend all the meetups that we do. So.
Me? Yeah, I'm from UK, yes.
That one I got already. Yeah. I'm gonna send him a.
All right, could you repeat again, Mingzu?
What my company name or what? Formal pay. FOMO.
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
So you got the correct LinkedIn profile. Okay.
Yeah, you want a T-shirt, so we'll get in touch with you to pass you a T-shirt.
Yeah.
They want to
See anyone else? Actually,
Me? Yeah,
not
I'm
much.
from.
So
Yeah.
Rico is out. Rico is in Germany. So sorry. Could you repeat again?
I can get my German colleague to send him a
What
shirt.
my company name or?
Oh yeah, Timo can pass to him.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. They
So
can
you
meet for
got the
coffee or
correct
beer.
LinkedIn profile. Okay.
Yeah, you want a T-shirt, so we'll get
Yeah.
in touch with you to pass you a T-shirt.
Hey,
Okay.
Max, right?
Yes.
See anyone else?
Could you tell us a bit more about kit.io?
Not much. So
Yeah.
Sure. So some actually months ago at this point, we were just building a chatbot. I know if you've heard like of Bird, like Google came out with some very powerful AI models that makes creating a bot very, very easy.
Hey,
Right?
Max, right?
So we built something like Rasa,
Could you tell us a bit more
and
about
then realized that
kit.io?
Rasa exists and is an amazing open source project. And then we pretty much abandoned the whole bot kit idea. And then a few weeks back, actually, we had like a use case where we started like building bots for our friends and like just having fun with the chatbot project. And then we discovered if you actually start multiple Rasa instances, you have the problem of how, like, where do you store the knowledge, right? You can build pretty much a lot of things by yourself, but there tends to be a lot of things that you have to repeat over and over again. And it would be amazing to have like one UI that can handle multiple bots, right? And you want to have your own front end, and you want to extract data from different websites and organize them and whatnot. And so we started building those things, and then realized it would be really cool to have those items open source, which can guide you from, oh, I have a website, I want a chatbot, anything in between, I don't really know how to do it, gives you just enough tools to get started. Yeah, and so we've been working on it ever since, and I think it's an interesting time because the libraries are so powerful and yet so easy to use. I think it's mostly typing, like building things by just taking 2 or 3 libraries and punching them together really hard, but yeah.
Yep. Thanks. I guess, to be fair, I should probably also introduce myself. I'm part of a team that works with chatbots for a living.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so we do research with A-Star on language processing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know intimately the problems that you described with Rasa and stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of a pain, and I recognize that there's a need also to build a product that makes it easier for beginners to basically from their own data store, right? Like they can have 25 PDFs and some HTML, and then they want to build a chatbot out of it.
Yeah,
it's nice to have that interface that helps them do that.
Yes, so we hope to get there one day to have more. We have already some exciting stuff, but as you said, right, it's many different users have such different needs. I think it's also about tutorials and teaching people.
Yeah.
That's why the open source approach is quite cool. I mean, given that like Space is open source and Rasa is open source.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but maybe we can have like a follow-up session, because I know we have the Susi AI people also very interested in sharing this stuff, and they do some amazing work as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have more sessions coming up in the future. I think it's also about tutorials and teaching people. Yeah, but thanks.
Looking forward to that. Thanks.
We can share maybe in the next in future sessions.
We're gonna invite you for the future session then, if you're okay with it.
You get one.
Maybe we can have like a follow-up session, because I know we have the Susi AI people also very interested.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Work as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have more.
I know it's getting a bit late.
Okay.
So tomorrow is a Friday.
It's actually a Black Friday.
You want to come here in the middle?
All the sale, we gotta get ready for all the shopping.
We're gonna invite you for the future session.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. So if not, then we'll just call it a night.
Yep.
Wrap it up.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks everyone. I think we'll end it down here. Oh, Cheryl is gonna give KH a shirt. So KH, please send your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn URL to Cheryl, and she'll get in touch with you. So thanks everyone for participating. So we'll try and think of some other crazy idea for December. Yeah, if not, Christmas. How
any suggestion?
Yeah.
Or Christmas party?
Thanks
In the
everyone.
past, when we had the Singapore Linux user group, we always had a Christmas party
Please send your
and a
email
Christmas
file,
barbecue, right?
to
Can't remember those
URL
days
to
we used to do
Cheryl,
it.
and
Don't know
she'll
whether we
get in touch
can,
with you. So thanks everyone
but
for participating.
well,
So
we'll
try
see.
and think Okay, we'll
We'll
probably
wait for Lawrence Wong to announce.
decide a bit more. We still got one whole month to go, so we'll see how the
Christmas
situation
party.
goes for
That would
Singapore.
be good.
Yeah, we'll see how the situation goes for
We
Singapore.
always
Yeah.
had a Christmas party. Okay, we can have a group here and a group in the balcony.
Yeah, so separate. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good evening.
Cheers.
Bye bye. See you next month. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Bye bye.
See how the
Christmas
situation
party.
goes for
That would
Singapore.
be good.
Yeah, we'll see how the situation goes for Singapore. Yeah.
Okay. We can have a group here and a group in the balcony.
Yeah, so separate. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good evening.
Cheers.
Bye bye.